1993. 13-year-old Eric Smith was sent to prison for the crime, and it wasn't until today, almost 30 years later, he was released.
Some of the voices were talking to me. You need to make a sacrifice or we're going to come and get you. You need to do it.
What could be worse than a serial killer? Try imagining one in the body of a child. Small, harmless looking, but hiding something truly evil. What happened to turn these kids into killers? Experts have searched for answers.
Was your throat cut?
Yeah. Oh.
Grandma?
Oh my God.
But some minds are too dark to understand. And when these children speak, the words they say can freeze your blood. These 10 disturbing interviews reveal the twisted thoughts of young murderers. Once you hear them, you will never forget them.
2 girls were killed around 6 p.m. By 11 the next morning, they are both completely gone out of my life.
Number 10. James Farweather. He thought he would never get caught, and for a while, he didn't. But what makes this case even more disturbing is how calm he was about it all. Almost like it meant nothing. And once you hear what he said and did, it's hard to forget. James Farweather was only 15, but his actions were far from anything you would expect from a teenager. Most kids that age are worried about school or friends. Not him. He had something else on his mind. People close to him had heard him say strange things before. Things like how he wanted to kill someone. But most thought he was just joking around, trying to sound cool or edgy. Even his teachers brushed it off. That all changed in March 2014. He found a man who was drunk and mentally disabled. A man who couldn't defend himself. Farweather stabbed him. Not once, not twice, but over 100 times. The scene was so violent it shocked even the police. You'd think that would have been the end of it, that someone so young doing something like that would be caught quickly. But no. 3 whole months went by. Then came another attack. A 31-year-old woman, Nahid Almanea, was walking along a nature trail in Essex. Farweather came out of nowhere. He had a bayonet. He stabbed her again and again. He even stabbed her in both eyes. That detail stuck with the investigators. It was cruel, personal, unforgiving. Police questioned him after that, but somehow they let him go. And then came the moment everything unraveled. Farweather was caught trying to attack someone else. He had gloves on, a lock knife in his pocket. This time, there was no walking away. His own mother couldn't believe it. She called him a monster. But what he said during questioning chilled people even more. He admitted he wasn't done, said he wanted to kill at least 15 more. He had been researching serial killers, the worst of the worst. Ian Huntley, Myra Hindley, Peter Sutcliffe. He even had Sutcliffe's photo saved on his phone, and his favorite was Ted Bundy, the same man who was known for some of the most gruesome crimes in history. But that's not all. After each murder, Farweather would go online. He would search for news stories about his killings. He wanted to see the reaction. He needed to know how much attention he was getting, and even after being caught, he didn't seem to care. In court, he admitted to manslaughter, said voices told him to do it, claimed the devil was inside him, but his behavior showed no fear, no guilt, nothing.
I stabbed him first there. I've done it a few times. While I was doing that, my voices were laughing and laughing and laughing louder and louder.
The judge didn't hold back. He called him brutal and sadistic. In the end, he was given life in prison with at least 27 years before he could even be considered for release. In response to this, Farweather just nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders and said, "I don't give a shit." It's rare to see someone so young, so cold. But even more rare is how openly he embraced the darkness inside him. Number 9. Zachary Davis. It was August 10th, 2012. A hot summer day in Tennessee. Nothing seemed out of place. Zachary Davis, just 15, had gone to see a movie with his mother Melanie and older brother Josh, who was 16. A simple family outing. No one saw what was coming. When they got home, Zachary packed a few things. Clothes, notebooks, a toothbrush. He also grabbed gloves, a ski mask, and a claw hammer. To anyone watching, it might have looked like he was planning to run away. But what was really going on in his head was much darker. At 9 p.m., Melanie went to bed. She thought it was just another quiet night. But while she slept, Zachary made his move. He went down to the basement and picked up a sledgehammer. It was heavy, cold, sharp at the edges. He walked into her room and hit her over and over. almost 20 times. He didn't stop until she was dead. Her blood soaked everything. But Zachary didn't freeze. He shut the door and walked away. Next, he went to the game room. He poured gasoline and whiskey all around. He lit a match and set it ablaze. His plan was to trap his brother Josh in the fire. He wanted him dead too, but he shut the door after lighting the fire, and that slowed the flames. That mistake probably saved Josh's life. The fire didn't spread fast enough. Josh was woken by the alarm. He ran to check on their mom, but what he found was far worse than flames. He ran to a neighbor's house, barefoot and panicked. Meanwhile, Zachary had already disappeared. Police found him nearly 10 miles away. He showed no fear, no guilt. When asked how he felt, he said he didn't feel anything when he killed her. Later, he told investigators that a voice had told him to do it.
I feel bad for doing it.
But at the time you laughed. Why feel bad now?
I think it was a stupid thing to do.
A voice in his head that wouldn't leave him alone. When asked if he had any regrets, his answer was sharp. He said he would kill Josh too if he had another chance. He didn't even blink when detectives showed him crime scene photos. He stared at them with a blank face. He said he chose the sledgehammer because it gave him the best chance to make sure she died. In court, a taped confession played. He described everything. In the video, he laughed when talking about the weight of the weapon. He also laughed when he described the sound it made as he struck his mother with it. The courtroom fell silent. The jury only took 3 hours to decide. Life in prison. No second chance. No way out. Number 8. Alyssa Bamante. She had dug 2 graves before she even chose her victim. Most kids her age were worried about homework or who they'd sit with at lunch. But Alyssa Bamante had something much darker on her mind. Her life hadn't been easy. Her mother, Michelle, struggled with addiction for years. Her father, Caesar, was behind bars for assault. With both parents out of the picture, Alyssa was sent to live with her grandparents in Missouri. On the outside, things looked stable. They had legal custody of her since 2002. But inside, something was off. No one can really say if she was born to kill or if it grew inside her over time. But what's certain is that Alyssa became a killer. And not just any killer. She took the life of a child. October 16th, 2009 was a day off from school in Jefferson City. Most teens used the free time to sleep in or scroll through their phones. Alyssa, just 15 at the time, had other plans. That day, she went into the woods behind her grandparents' home and dug 2 holes. Not 1, 2. She left them there, waiting, ready. 5 days later, she saw her chance. 9-year-old Elizabeth Olton was walking home from a friend's house. She lived nearby. Alyssa knew her. Their families lived close, and Elizabeth's older sister was friends with Alyssa. So when Alyssa called out to her, Elizabeth didn't hesitate. What happened next was fast and brutal. Alyssa got the little girl inside. Then she attacked. She strangled her, stabbed her, beat her until she stopped moving. No one heard a sound. By nightfall, Elizabeth hadn't returned home. Her parents knew something was wrong. She was scared of the dark, always had been. There was no way she would stay out alone on purpose. Police were called. Family and neighbors searched everywhere, but Elizabeth was gone. 2 days later, police got an anonymous letter. It mentioned Alyssa's name. That was the break they needed. She was brought in for questioning. At first, she stayed quiet, but after 2 hours, she confessed to the crime. Her grandmother sat beside her as she described what she had done. The older woman couldn't handle it. She started crying and ran out of the room.
Grandma.
Oh my God.
Investigators soon learned more about Alyssa's past. Her online activity stood out. On Facebook and YouTube, she had posted strange things. She once wrote that killing people was a hobby. She also talked a lot about wondering what it would feel like to kill someone. It shocked everyone. In January 2002, nearly 3 years later, Alyssa reached a deal in court. She pled guilty to second-degree murder and armed criminal action. That meant no trial. But the outcome was still severe. She was sentenced to life in prison with a chance of conditional release. On top of that, she got 30 more years for the armed charge. What made this case unforgettable wasn't just her age, it was the way she planned it. From the empty graves to the chilling confession, everything had been done on purpose. Number 7. Greg Osley. Some cases make headlines because of violence, but others stop people in their tracks because of why they happened. This one, it still has people asking questions. Greg Osley was just 14 when he made a decision that would change everything. His home life wasn't the kind that involved physical beatings, but it wasn't calm either. His dad drank a lot. His mom could lash out emotionally. There wasn't much warmth in the house, and Greg felt it. He kept most of his emotions to himself.
I have something to offer that I like to think I have more to offer because I've been on both sides.
But they built up, quietly, bit by bit. Things got worse when he saw something that really messed with him. He had caught his mom kissing his dad's best friend. He didn't tell anyone at first, but something in him changed after that. He also tried to talk to his parents. He told them about the thoughts he was having, dark thoughts about hurting himself and even hurting others. But his mom didn't take it seriously. She told him he was watching too many movies and walked away. He felt ignored, like no one was really hearing him, not even when he was practically begging for help. Then, one night, February 27, 1993, Greg acted on those thoughts. He picked up his dad's shotgun. First, he shot his father in the head. His mother tried to run for the phone. He followed her and shot her twice. Both were dead within minutes. Afterward, Greg drove to a friend's house. He told the friend everything. Then, almost as if trying to undo it, he went back to the scene. He called the police and claimed he had just gotten home and found his parents like that. But it didn't hold up. The friend came forward and told the truth. Greg was tried as an adult and he pleaded guilty. The judge sentenced him to 60 years behind bars. But the strange part came years later. Greg agreed to talk to the media. He wrote that for the longest time, he couldn't even tell himself why he had done what he did. But, he said, about a year before the interview, he started to figure it out. He said he wanted to start explaining things to the community where it all happened. The interview lasted 2 hours. But by the end, he still hadn't said what finally pushed him over the edge. He did say one thing, though, that caught everyone off guard. He claimed he didn't kill his dad out of hate. He said the only reason he did it was because he didn't want to leave him alone. He also described a strange split between his thoughts and his body. He said his mind wanted to stop, but his body just kept going. Even now, no one fully understands why it happened, not even Greg. Number 6. Eric Smith. It was August 2nd, 1993. Eric Smith hopped on his bike, heading for summer camp in a local park like any other kid his age. He was 13, quiet, and often kept to himself. That same morning, 4-year-old Derek Roby was also on his way to camp, walking there alone like he usually did. Their paths met, and that's when everything changed. Eric told Derek he knew a shortcut through a wooded area nearby. The little boy followed, not knowing what was waiting for him in those trees. Once they were out of sight, Eric suddenly turned violent. He strangled Derek until he passed out. Then he grabbed a large rock and crushed the boy's head with it. But it didn't end there. Eric took a stick and assaulted the child. He even poured Kool-Aid, taken from Derek's lunchbox, into his open wounds. The scene was horrific. The medical examiner would later say Derek died from blunt trauma to the head, with asphyxia also playing a part. By 11 a.m., Derek's mother showed up at the park to get him, but staff told her he never arrived. Right away, she knew something was wrong. He was too young to just run off. He wouldn't have wandered. A search began. 4 hours later, investigators found Derek's body in the woods. Soon, attention turned to Eric. Police interviewed him because he lived nearby and had been at the park that day. Eric told them he saw Derek walking by himself and even mentioned exactly what the boy was wearing. He also described Derek's lunch bag in surprising detail. That raised some red flags. So investigators had Eric go back and reenact what he said happened. They asked him to ride his bike again near the spot where he claimed to see Derek. But there was a problem. He couldn't have seen what he described from where he said he was. That's when detectives knew they were getting closer. Then, on August 8, just 6 days after the murder, Eric told his mother what he had done. She called the police. When they brought him in, he admitted everything. During the interview, he told them that he totally enjoyed it and hadn't wanted it to stop. That confession shocked the entire country. Eric was charged with second-degree murder and tried as an adult, the youngest in New York State at that time to face adult charges.
Eric Smith, who gained national attention almost 3 decades ago for killing a 4-year-old, has been set free.
His trial focused heavily on his mental health. Doctors ran tests on everything from brain scans to hormone levels, but nothing abnormal showed up. People began to look deeper into his life. Court records showed he was often picked on. Kids bullied him for his red hair, thick glasses, freckles, and big ears. Many believed all that pain may have built up inside him. In the end, Eric was convicted. He was given 9 years to life, the longest sentence allowed for someone his age. Number 5. Brenda Spencer. It started with a rifle, a school, and a Monday morning. But what followed left a community stunned and a nation asking why. It was January 29th, 1979. The clock had just passed 8:30 a.m. when 16-year-old Brenda Spencer stood at the window of her home in San Carlos, California. She looked out across the street toward Cleveland Elementary School. In her hands was a .22 caliber semi-automatic rifle. It wasn't hidden or stolen. Her father had given it to her as a Christmas gift, along with plenty of ammunition. Then, she began shooting. For 20 minutes, shots rang out across the neighborhood. Inside the schoolyard, chaos broke out as children screamed and ducked for cover. When police finally surrounded her house, it took 6 hours for the standoff to end. She eventually surrendered. But what she said after left everyone shaken. When asked why she did it, Brenda replied that she didn't like Mondays. She said it was her way of making the day better. According to her, no one liked Mondays anyway. That one sentence spread fast and left people speechless. At the time, Brenda was known for getting into trouble. She was often caught using drugs. People said she had a mean streak. Before the shooting, she had already broken windows at the school using a BB gun. Her behavior was concerning, but no one saw what was coming.
At 16 years old, Brenda Spencer opened fire from her home across the street of the school.
Even after all of that, her father still handed her a deadly weapon as a holiday gift. And then came the warnings no one took seriously. Before the shooting, Brenda had been telling classmates she wanted to do something big. Something, she said, that would get her on television. That Monday morning, Principal Burton Ragg was just opening the school gates when the first shots were fired. He was killed. Michael Suchar, the school custodian, tried to help and was shot too. He also died. 8 children and 1 police officer were wounded. Brenda didn't seem to care. In an interview, she described what happened in a cold, emotionless way. She said she just started shooting and called it fun. There was no sign of guilt, no sign of regret. There was no jury trial. Brenda pleaded guilty. Her defense claimed she was mentally ill, but it didn't change the outcome. Just 1 day after turning 18, she was sentenced to 2 life sentences to be served back to back. She barely reacted in court. Later on, Brenda said the case might have gone differently if it had reached trial. She believed important things about her mental health had been overlooked. Even so, nothing could change what had already happened. Number 4. John Venibals and Robert Thompson. You would never expect murder from 2 boys skipping school. But that's exactly what happened. It was February 12, 1993, in Merseyside, England. John Venibals and Robert Thompson, both just 10 years old, had been wandering around the New Strand shopping center. They weren't shopping. They were stealing whatever caught their eye: candy, batteries, a can of blue paint, and even a troll doll. But what they did next stunned the entire country. That day, 2-year-old James Bulger was at the mall with his mother. In a brief moment, while she was distracted, the 2 boys led James away by the hand.
We hear the chilling interviews they conducted with killers Robert Thompson and John Venibals.
Surveillance footage later captured the moment they took him, calmly walking off as if nothing was wrong. They didn't go far at first. They took James to a nearby canal, about a quarter mile from the shopping center. There, they dropped him on his head. His face was injured, but the boys laughed and talked about pushing him into the water. Then they kept walking, dragging James from one spot to another. Along the way, they were seen by 38 different people. Some stopped to ask what was going on. The boys made up stories. They told people James was their younger brother, or that he was lost and they were helping him find a police station. And somehow, that was enough to keep suspicion away. So they kept going. Eventually, they ended up in Walton. The Walton Lane police station was right across the street at one point, but they didn't stop. Instead, they led James up a steep hill to a railway track near a cemetery. That's where things got worse. They threw the blue paint they had stolen into James's left eye. Then they started kicking him, stomping on him. They threw stones and bricks. They shoved batteries into his mouth. One of them picked up a 10-kilogram railway bar and dropped it on his head. The injuries were horrific. A pathologist later said James had been hit so many times it was impossible to tell which blow had killed him. But they weren't finished. The boys laid James's body across the train tracks and covered his head with rubble. Their plan was to make it look like an accident. Later, a train came through and cut the child's body in half. His remains were found 2 days later by a group of boys searching for lost footballs. After they were arrested, one of the boys admitted they had first planned to grab any child and push them into traffic. Instead, they chose James. John Venibals and Robert Thompson were charged with abduction and murder. They were found guilty, becoming the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. The court sentenced them to indefinite detention, under Her Majesty's pleasure. They remained locked up until they were released in 2001 at 18 years old, under lifelong supervision. Number 3. Stacy Lannard. Two sisters growing up under the same roof. But behind closed doors, their childhood looked nothing like what others saw. What seemed like a regular home was hiding years of pain, fear, and secrets no kid should ever carry. Stacy Lannard was only 18 when she shot her father, Thomas Lannard. At first, she adored him. When she was younger, she described him as someone who seemed almost like a superhero. She felt safe with him, close to him. But everything began to change, slowly, and then all at once. Her younger sister, Christy, was the first to face his violent side. She later said it started when she was in first grade. Thomas would throw her down the stairs. He beat her often. As she got older, it got worse. By the time she was 12, he had begun giving her alcohol. Every time he drank, the beatings got more intense. But Thomas didn't stop with Christy. When Stacy turned 8, her father began targeting her too. The things he forced her to do were awful. No one helped them. No one stopped it. The abuse stretched on for 10 long years. Then, one night, everything snapped. Thomas had passed out drunk on the couch. His rifle was nearby. Stacy picked it up. Her hands shook. She closed her eyes and pulled the trigger. The shot didn't kill him right away. The bullet hit his shoulder. He woke up yelling for help, but Stacy didn't stop. She shot him again, this time ending his life.
I shot my father, and he died as a result.
Afterward, she confessed to everything. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She told the truth, at least the version she believed had to be told. The court sentenced her to life in prison. She served 18 years behind bars. Then, at 2009, something unexpected happened. The governor stepped in and commuted her sentence. Stacy walked free. But not everyone agreed with the decision. The prosecutor in the case spoke out. He believed she had lied about what really happened. In his opinion, Stacy's motive wasn't survival. It was money. After her father's death, she received a $500,000 inheritance. He believed that's what she was after all along. That accusation still raises questions to this day. Did she finally stand up to years of abuse? Or did she cover up a calculated decision under the weight of a powerful story? There are people on both sides. Some say she saved herself. Others think she planned it out. Number 2. Michael Hernandez. There are moments when a normal school day turns into something no one could have predicted. No loud warnings. No signs from the sky. Just a hallway, a backpack, and a bathroom stall hiding something unthinkable. It was a morning in February 2004 at Southwood Middle School in Palmetto Bay, Florida. 14-year-old Michael Hernandez walked the same halls as his classmates. Nothing about him stood out, but something dark had been growing inside him. That day, it reached its peak. Michael led his friend, Jamie Goff, also 14, into a handicapped bathroom stall. He told Jamie he had something to show him. What happened next was fast, brutal, and planned. Michael pulled out a knife and attacked Jamie, stabbing him over 40 times.
He lured a classmate into the bathroom and stabbed him to death 40 times.
Then, he slit his throat. With the same calm he walked in with, Michael cleaned himself up, hid the knife in a special spot inside his backpack, and went to class like nothing had happened. It wasn't long before teachers noticed something strange. One teacher saw blood on Michael and called the police. The investigation moved quickly after that. Police soon discovered something that made the crime even more chilling. Michael had been keeping a journal. In it, he had a list of people he wanted to kill. His own sister was on that list.
Michael Hernandez to address his own sister in court and explain to her why he planned to kill her.
He wrote about famous serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. He looked up to them. He even said he believed he was on a mission to cleanse the planet. That's what made him feel powerful. During questioning, Michael described the murder. He didn't hesitate. He admitted everything, including an earlier attempt to kill another friend. He had tried to lure that boy into the bathroom the day before, but the boy had gotten suspicious and didn't go inside. Michael was charged with first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder. His lawyers said he was insane, but doctors found him competent to stand trial. In 2008, he got a life sentence. Years later, the United States Supreme Court ruled that juveniles couldn't be sentenced to life without parole. That brought his case back into question. Prosecutors pushed to keep him behind bars. And then, more evidence came out, disturbing recordings from jail. Michael had been talking on the phone about serial killers, his love for violent music, and how he couldn't cry. He sounded proud, not sorry. That helped the court keep his life sentence in place. Michael Hernandez died in prison on April 29, 2021. He was 31 years old. Number 1. Joshua Phillips. One moment you're just cleaning up your kid's room. The next, you're discovering something so dark, it changes everything. That's what happened to Joshua Phillips's mom. And what she found would shock not just her, but an entire neighborhood. It was a normal morning in Jacksonville, Florida. Joshua had already left for school. His mom, Missy Phillips, was tidying up when she noticed a wet patch under his bed. Thinking it was just a leak from the waterbed, she leaned in for a closer look, but the situation started to feel off. Electrical tape was holding part of the frame together. That seemed strange. She tugged on the tape, expecting water damage, or maybe something her son had hidden out of embarrassment. What she found instead was one of Joshua's socks. But when she reached in, her hand touched something cold. That's when she grabbed a flashlight. What the beam landed on would be burned into her memory forever. The lifeless body of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton.
Of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton reliving their worst nightmare in court as their child's killer took the stand.
Maddie had been missing for a week. The whole neighborhood had been out looking for her. And Joshua? He had joined the search too, like nothing was wrong. News spread fast. By the time police showed up at his school, there was no more pretending. Joshua was arrested right there on school grounds. And he didn't put up much of a fight. He told the police everything. Years later, in a 2008 interview, he said he had been living in what he called a fantasy world. He explained that when he was a kid, anytime something bad happened, he would pretend it didn't. That was his way of dealing with everything. Just act like it never happened and maybe it would go away. But the truth didn't go away. Not for Maddie's family, not for Joshua's, not for anyone in that neighborhood. Because he was only 14 at the time, Joshua couldn't be sentenced to death. Instead, he got life in prison with no chance of parole. That sentence has never changed. To this day, no one knows exactly why he did it. Joshua claimed he accidentally hit Maddie in the eye with a baseball bat while playing outside. He said he panicked, dragged her into his room, and hit and stabbed her. But the jury didn't believe him. The way she was killed, and how he hid the body for a week, told a different story. And he has never offered another explanation. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.